Help me, Sophie. They've locked me up here and told everyone I'm dead. My grandmother's voice whispered through my phone at 2 a.m., trembling but unmistakably alive, unmistakably hers, unmistakably terrified. I attended my own funeral through a crack in the floorboards. They've been keeping me in the attic with a bucket and a mattress for 3 weeks. I sat bolt upright in bed, my heart slamming against my ribs, trying to process what I was hearing. Because I had been at that funeral, had wept over what I believed was her casket, had watched my siblings divide her $1.8 million estate with indecent haste while I was told I'd been written out years ago. What I didn't know until that phone call was that the grandmother I'd mourned wasn't dead at all. She was a prisoner in her own home, and the people holding her captive were my own brother and sister. The funeral had been 3 weeks earlier. I'd flown in from Portland the moment I received Marcus's call, my older brother, his voice carefully calibrated to convey grief. Grandma passed in her sleep last night. Peaceful. The service is Saturday. I'd been devastated. Grandma Eleanor had been my anchor through a chaotic childhood, the one stable presence when my parents' divorce tore our family apart. She'd paid for my college when my parents couldn't. She'd sheltered me during the years my siblings made my life hell. The funeral had been a blur of tears and confusion. The casket had been closed, Grandma's wishes, my sister Vivian had explained. She didn't want people seeing her that way. The service had been brief, impersonal, conducted by a minister who clearly hadn't known Eleanor at all. And then came the will reading. According to my siblings, Grandma had changed her will 6 months before her death. Marcus received the house, a Victorian mansion worth $1.2 million. Vivian received the investment portfolio, approximately $400,000. I received nothing. She was disappointed in you, Vivian had said, not bothering to hide her satisfaction. Moving across the country. Never visiting. She felt abandoned. I'd visited Grandma 4 times in the past year. I'd called every Sunday. I'd sent cards, photos, updates on my life. But I'd been too grief-stricken to argue. Too shocked to question the convenient timing of the will change. Too trusting to imagine that my own siblings were capable of something monstrous. The phone call changed everything. Grandma, where are you? Are you safe? I'm in the attic. The old storage room with the padlock. They bring me food twice a day, enough to survive, not enough to be strong. They took my phone, but I found the old one I'd hidden in the insulation. The charger still works. I'm calling the police. Be careful. Marcus has friends on the force. He's been planning this for months. He found a woman, homeless, approximately my size, paid her to disappear, used her body for the funeral. The death certificate is real, Sophie. They bribed someone at the coroner's office. My mind was reeling. This couldn't be real. This was the plot of a thriller, not my actual life. I'm coming. I'm flying out tonight. Don't come alone. Don't trust anyone in this town. Marcus has connections everywhere. I'll bring help. I promise. Just stay hidden. Keep the phone charged. I'm going to get you out. I didn't call the local police. I couldn't risk it. Instead, I contacted the FBI field office in the nearest major city, explaining what I knew. Potential elder abuse, false death certificate, possible fraud involving estate distribution. The agent who took my statement was skeptical at first. The story sounded insane, but agreed to investigate quietly. If your grandmother is alive and being held against her will, this is kidnapping, Agent Delacroix said. Combined with the fraudulent death certificate and estate theft, we're looking at multiple federal crimes. But we need proof before we can act. What kind of proof? Ideally, communication with your grandmother that can be verified. Evidence that the death certificate was falsified. Anything that establishes she's alive and being held captive. I called Grandma back, this time on speakerphone with Agent Delacroix listening. Her voice was weaker than before. She'd been rationing the phone's battery, but she provided details that only she could know. She described the layout of the attic, the specific items stored there, the routine Marcus and Vivian followed when bringing her food. She named the homeless woman whose body had been substituted, a woman named Doris who'd been living under the downtown bridge. They promised Doris they'd help her, Grandma said. Instead, they killed her. I heard them arguing about it. Marcus was angry because it was supposed to look natural, but something went wrong. Agent Delacroix's expression shifted from skeptical to deadly serious. We need to move quickly. The operation was coordinated with military precision. Federal agents, state police from 2 jurisdictions over, to avoid any local corruption, and a specialized elder abuse unit converged on the property at 6 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. I was there, waiting in an unmarked vehicle down the street, watching the house where I'd spent countless childhood summers. The agents knocked first. When Marcus answered the door, his confusion was almost convincing. "What's this about?" "My grandmother passed away 3 weeks ago." "This is harassment." "Sir, we have a warrant to search the premises. Please step aside." Marcus tried to stall, called his lawyer, demanded to see badges and credentials. Vivian appeared behind him, her face carefully composed in innocent bewilderment. "There must be some mistake. Our grandmother is buried at Oakwood Cemetery. We can show you the grave." "Ma'am, we have evidence suggesting your grandmother may still be alive and being held in this residence. Please step aside." The search took 11 minutes. Agents found the attic access, a pull-down ladder that had been secured with a padlock. Inside, they found exactly what Grandma had described: a mattress on the floor, a bucket serving as a toilet, a small collection of granola bars and water bottles, and my 84-year-old grandmother, thin and weak, but very much alive. The body cam footage captured everything. The moment the agents opened the door, Grandma's face, gaunt, tear-stained, but flooded with relief. Her voice: "I knew Sophie would find me. I knew she wouldn't give up." And behind the officers, captured in crystal-clear video, Marcus and Vivian's expressions as they realized their scheme had collapsed. The footage went viral within 48 hours of being released. The investigation uncovered a conspiracy more elaborate than I'd imagined. Marcus and Vivian had been planning the scheme for over a year. They'd found Doris, a homeless woman with no family who vaguely resembled Grandma from a distance, and offered her money to help with a family situation. When she'd become suspicious and threatened to go to the police, they'd killed her with an overdose of sleeping pills and staged the death as Grandma Eleanor's. The coroner who signed the death certificate had been bribed $50,000 to overlook inconsistencies and rush the paperwork. The funeral home had been chosen specifically because they offered closed casket services with minimal preparation. Grandma had been moved to the attic the night before the death. She'd been told that if she made any noise, if she tried to signal anyone, they would make her disappear for real. "They said they'd burn the house down with me in it," she testified at the trial. "They said no one would ever know the difference between one dead body and another in a fire." For 3 weeks, my grandmother had lived in that attic. She'd listened through the floorboards as her own funeral was conducted downstairs. She'd heard her estate being divided, her possessions being catalogued, her life being erased. "The worst part was hearing them laugh," she said. After the funeral, they opened champagne. They toasted to finally being free of the old woman who'd controlled everything for too long. The trial was a media sensation. Marcus and Vivian were charged with kidnapping, elder abuse, murder for Doris, conspiracy to commit fraud, and a dozen related offenses. The evidence was overwhelming: Grandma's testimony, the body cam footage, financial records showing the bribery payments, text messages between my siblings discussing their plan. Their defense strategy was predictable: blame each other. Marcus claimed Vivian had masterminded everything. Vivian claimed Marcus had forced her to participate through threats. Neither showed remorse for Grandma's suffering, only for getting caught. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Guilty on all counts. Marcus received life without parole. Vivian received 45 years. The coroner who'd been bribed received 15 years. And the woman they'd killed, Doris, was finally identified and given a proper burial. Her story became part of the trial's legacy: a homeless woman who'd trusted the wrong people, whose life had been treated as disposable, whose death had nearly been erased entirely. Grandma Eleanor recovered slowly. The physical damage was significant: 3 weeks of inadequate food and water, no medical care, the psychological trauma of imprisonment by her own grandchildren. She spent 2 months in a rehabilitation facility, regaining strength. But her spirit remained unbroken. "They underestimated me," she said during one of my visits. "They always did. They saw an old woman they could manipulate, control, eventually dispose of. They never understood that I survived the depression, buried a husband, raised 4 children through poverty, and built everything they were trying to steal. I wasn't going to let them win." "How did you know to hide the phone?" "I'd suspected something for months." Marcus kept asking strange questions about my finances, my medical history, my funeral preferences. He thought he was being subtle, but I've known that boy since he was born. I could tell something was wrong. "Why didn't you call me sooner?" "I didn't have proof." I thought maybe I was being paranoid, an old woman imagining conspiracies. And then one day I woke up, and they were moving me to the attic. By then it was too late for anything except survival. The estate was eventually restored. The house, which Marcus had briefly possessed through fraud, returned to Grandma Eleanor's ownership. The investment accounts were recovered. A new will was drafted, properly witnessed and notarized, leaving everything to me and to a charitable trust Grandma established in Doris's name. That poor woman died because of my family, Grandma said. The least I can do is make sure her memory helps others. The Doris Foundation now provides housing and support services for homeless women in the city. It's become one of the most respected charitable organizations in the region. Grandma lived for another 4 years after her rescue. When she finally did pass, peacefully in her sleep, surrounded by family who actually loved her, I made sure the funeral was everything she deserved. Open casket, hundreds of attendees, a minister who'd known her for decades, and no secrets, no lies, no monsters hiding in the family tree. The bodycam footage still circulates online. Millions of people have watched the moment the attic door opened, have seen my grandmother's face, have heard her words. I knew Sophie would find me. The comments are always the same. Shock that family could do this, gratitude that she was saved, anger at a system that almost let it happen. But for me, the video represents something else. It represents the moment I learned that evil doesn't always come from strangers. Sometimes it comes from the people who share your blood, your history, your grandmother's Sunday dinners. My siblings sold my grandmother's house while she was still alive. She was locked in the attic with a bucket and a mattress. She called me from a hidden phone, and I didn't stop until I brought her home. That's what family is supposed to mean. Real family. The kind that shows up when it matters.